So we've learned a lot. There's a lot of research-based information about preventing Alzheimer's and dementia and to maintaining your cognitive health. We know that there's no magic bullet cure at this point for Alzheimer's, and there's really very little as far as effective treatments. We're making progress, but right now, really, while there's research being done into the treatments and ultimately a cure, we want people to know what they can do to minimize that cognitive risk. And really what we tell people is what's good for your heart is good for your head. The blood flow to your brain is incredibly important in maintaining cognitive health. So eating a balanced diet, rich in vegetables and low in saturated fats, exercise. Exercise is really important because it maintains your cognitive health through blood flow.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is Tim here with the TMA Connection. It's your local podcast that's focused on people that are making a difference in the lives of others in our community. And sometimes we talk about real estate too. But today we're putting real estate on a back burner because today we have a very special guest from the Alzheimer's Association of Greater Maryland. And this is Miss Nicole Gorski, or do we call you Nikki?
I go by either.
Go by either? Do your friends call you Nikki?
My friends call me
Well,
Nikki.
then I'm going to call you Nikki.
Okay.
So Nikki is very involved with Alzheimer's, and this is something that's very close to our family, as my grandmother and my great-grandmother had Alzheimer's and dementia, and have since passed. But it's a very tough disease. And certainly Nikki and her people are bringing a great awareness and support for people that not only have it, but the families of the people who have it. So doing a lot of great things. Wanted to bring you to the forefront today. So Nikki, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here because we know that Alzheimer's has often been a disease people don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
And without talking about it, there's no opportunity to get support. So we are here for anyone who is dealing with Alzheimer's or another form of dementia.
Well, this is, again, I've always wanted to put people in the seat here that I want to learn from. I'm always about learning, and certainly because this is so close to me, there's a lot to be learned. And so if you find this valuable, please share this out. Tag somebody who might get some good knowledge from this, because that's what this is all about, connecting people with others. So let's start this off, because when we first talked, one of my first questions was, what's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? Because a lot of times they're synonymous, but yet there is a difference. So let's talk about that.
There is. And we get this question all the time. Alzheimer's is a form of dementia. Dementia is the umbrella term that refers to changes in cognition, in behavior, and within dementia, Alzheimer's is the most common form, accounting for 60 to 80% of all dementia diagnoses.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There are other forms that people have probably heard of: vascular dementia, Lewy bodies, frontal temporal lobe, and those are all part of the dementia umbrella.
Gotcha. Okay. Some of those, in preparing for this, I'd never heard of them, but again, Alzheimer's seems to be, the more popular one. So what are the early signs of Alzheimer's, as people start to age?
Yes, and there are many different signs and identifiers of dementia and Alzheimer's in particular, but not every person experiences Alzheimer's dementia the same. The most common warning signs are memory issues, word issues. People have trouble finding the correct word. There are issues with spatial relationship. We often see people fall, particularly older people will fall at the beginning of dementia because they don't recognize changes in carpet color or curbs, things like that. Those are just a few. Really what we say is when cognitive issues start to impact daily life, that's when people should really have a conversation with their physician. Okay.
And certainly, with this being part of my family, one of my biggest questions is, am I genetically dispositioned to,
get Alzheimer's?
Get Alzheimer's. Thank you.
Yes, and we get this question all the time, and I will say that quite often. People don't want to learn about it because they consider that it's a predestined ordination that they're going to end up with Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
And that's not true. There are two types of genes. There's risk genes and deterministic genes. And the deterministic genes, if you have a deterministic gene for a disease, that means you are going to get that disease at some point in your life.
Okay.
And there is only one gene that's been tied to Alzheimer's, that if you have the APOE4 gene, I believe it's called, and don't hold me to that.
Okay. Okay.
That gene means you will get Alzheimer's dementia. However, that accounts for less than 1% of all dementia diagnoses. So it's a very small percentage. Risk genes mean that you are predisposed, and we have risk genes for obesity, and we have risk genes for heart disease and diabetes and all of those, that you are at risk for that disease. But there are things you can do to minimize or negate your risk.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so let's get into that, because I'm all about trying to live a healthy and active lifestyle.
Exactly.
And that's one of those ways that could help prevent Alzheimer's. But what are some other things that people can do to decrease that chance?
So we've learned a lot. There's a lot of research-based information about preventing Alzheimer's and dementia and to maintaining your cognitive health. We know that there's no magic bullet cure at this point for Alzheimer's, and there's really very little as far as effective treatments. We're making progress, but right now, really, while there's research being done into the treatments and ultimately a cure, we want people to know what they can do to minimize that cognitive risk. And really what we tell people is what's good for your heart is good for your head. The blood flow to your brain is incredibly important in maintaining cognitive health. So eating a balanced diet, rich in vegetables and low in saturated fats, exercise. Exercise is really important because it maintains your cognitive health through blood flow. Wearing a helmet. Any of you bikers out there, people who are rollerbladers, because I do know there are people who still do that. Anything that puts you at risk of head trauma, wear a helmet, because we do know that traumatic brain injury can lead to dementia.
Yeah. And there's certainly a huge emphasis, especially in high school and college athletics, with concussion awareness.
Exactly.
And how does that then correlate into risk of Alzheimer's?
Exactly, because we do know that, earlier on, if you have injury to your brain, it puts you at risk of cognitive impairment later in life. Yeah. So we tell people to be as cautious as possible. And one other piece is sleep. Sleep is very important because with Alzheimer's dementia, you have a buildup of amyloid plaque in your brain. And during REM sleep, is when that plaque kind of gets cleared out.
Oh, wow.
And sleep is important on so many levels to keep you healthy and happy. So we really encourage people who have issues with sleep, if you have sleep apnea or breathing issues, talk to your doctor about it and see what you can do to improve your sleep and therefore improve your overall health.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, absolutely. And so certainly your organization is involved in helping not only people with Alzheimer's, but the families. And again, with this being very personal to me, I saw the struggles that my mother and father went through in helping my grandmother, and I saw the struggles that my grandmother had in helping my great-grandmother. Exactly. And when it was time to go into a nursing home, and it's very challenging. So what are some of the resources that your organization has to help people, help families through this time?
This is why I really appreciate this opportunity, because we know that our resources are underutilized for people who are living with dementia and their caregivers. We know that, like in Maryland, there's 110,000 plus people living with dementia. And when you consider that unpaid caregivers provide the bulk of the care for them. There's about 300,000 people caring for someone with Alzheimer's or dementia. So we want them to know that we have resources available. First and foremost, most importantly, is our helpline. The number is 800-272-3900. That line is available 24/7, 365 days a year, staffed by master's level social workers who can answer pretty much any question about Alzheimer's or dementia. We encourage people to ask question. There's no dumb question except the one that's not asked.
Absolutely.
In addition to the helpline, and what happens with the helpline is when someone calls this national call center, their call is answered. Their call is taken by a social worker who then records that call, sends that call to the local office for that person, and outreach is done by the local office to talk about a care consultation and local resources.
Wow.
In addition, we have our website, alz.org, which is just chock full of information. It has a lot of our research information. It has information to help people as we head into the holidays. There's a lot of challenges dealing with people with dementia at the holidays.
Right.
So you can go there and find information about that. It has information about local education programs, local support groups, local early stage engagement activities, and anything that someone could need to get access to some dementia resources. We also have a community resource finder, which is in conjunction with AARP, and that community resource finder is accessible from our website and contains local resources like assisted livings, home care partnerships, legal guides to help you through the process. Particularly, we know guardianship's an issue sometimes if someone's in a later stage. So there's just a ton of information available on the website.
That's awesome. That is so awesome and so needed. And I think if my parents might have had that resource to them, now once they enter, big shout out to Citizens Nursing Home in Haverty Grace.
Yes.
Who both took care of my great grandmother when my grandmother was going to the nursing home every day to take care of her mom, and then ironically, years later, it was my grandmother that was in there, and the level of care there was fantastic.
Citizens is a wonderful partner,
and it takes a special person to be in that kind of environment to really help people who are struggling.
Yes, it is. So I'd love to share a couple of ways people can get involved if they haven't directly been impacted by Alzheimer's.
Yes, that would be awesome. There are opportunities for people.
There are. So we would love to do as much education as possible. We have free programs on things like our healthy living for your brain and body, 10 warning signs, as well as some deeper dives into understanding Alzheimer's and dementia. We are happy to come out to businesses, civic groups, churches, anyone who has a group of people who would be interested in learning more about Alzheimer's and dementia. We also could use support through volunteers. We have 16 staff that cover pretty much the greater part of the state of Maryland. And we deliver education from Eastern Shore through Allegheny County. And we need volunteer educators to come out and help deliver this program for us, to help share our message and share our resources.
Wow.
And then finally, it takes money to run all these things.
Sure.
We have 2 opportunities that people can get engaged with.
Okay.
Our Walk to End Alzheimer's is the largest fundraiser for Alzheimer's awareness and research.
Okay.
And it is held in more than 600 communities throughout the country in the fall.
In the fall, okay.
So October 7th, 2023 will be the Walk to End Alzheimer's in Hartford and Cecil.
Nice.
And it will be held at Ripken Stadium. And we are looking now for people to get engaged as sponsors, as committee volunteers, as teams and participants. So they can go to alz.org and click on the walk link and find out more information about that. In addition, we have another opportunity called The Longest Day, which is more of a DIY fundraiser. We encourage people to do something they love for the one that they love. And We are inspired by the light of the longest day to outshine darkness of Alzheimer's year round. So if anyone is interested in doing something but walk isn't their thing, I'd be happy to talk to them about the longest day.
That would be awesome. How can people connect with you?
My email is ngorski, Gorski, at alz.org. Mm-hmm. And my phone number is 443-632-9728. Or you can call our 800 number, let them know that you're interested in getting involved in Maryland, and they'll get you to me.
That's awesome, folks. What did you think? If you like this, again, this podcast, it's short and sweet today, but so much great information and every opportunity for you to help, to reach out to Nikki with any questions that you might have, if you need help or to give help. It would greatly be appreciated. Thanks so much for jumping in today. I'm so glad that you're here and acknowledge you for the work that you're doing for a great cause.
Thank you so much. And we don't want someone like your parents to say, I wish I would have known.
Yeah.
That's the reason we do this.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at the Markland Advantage. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Just search the TMA Connection. And again, the more you share these things out, the more connected people are to the great causes like the Alzheimer's Association. So Nicole Gorski, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Until next time, live your life to the fullest, and we'll see you soon. Take care.